Ham na praharan yadanubhava nirasta chitta. It was by his mercy only that my enemies neglected to kill me when I descended from my chariot to get water for my thirsty horses. And it was due to my lack of esteem for the Lord that I dared engage him as my chariot driver, for he is worshipped and offered services by the best of men to attain salvation. Swaparadhamanaswaran santapyamanaha, remembering his offenses to Lord Sri Krishna. In repentance, Arjuna speaks this verse. Jayadhrata vadhehi jalapanam vina ashvaha shvantaha tato rathadavatiriya vanehi bhuvam bhitva maya jalam sampaditam. It was my mercy only that my enemies neglected to kill me when I descended from my chariot to get water for my thirsty horses. This happened during the event of killing Jayadratha. तद्विरहेण तदैश्वर्यस्मृत्या दास्यभावस्य उदयात् स्वाभाविकस्य सख्यभावस्य अपलापात् तत् कार्यसारथ्यादिकम् अपराधत्वेन निश्चिन्वन् अनुतप्यमानाः सौत्ये. In separation from the Lord, he has remembrances of Krishna's Aishwarya. And by remembering Krishna's Aishwarya in separation, Dasya Bhava arises. And because of that, his natural attitude of Sakhya goes away, or at least it's covered. So therefore, he considers him engaging Lord Krishna as a chariot driver and so on as an offense, and he repents. Etavad aparadhavatyapi mayi tasya dayam shrunvatyah. He was very kind to me, even though I was so offensive. Shrunu ityah. Vicheda udita dainyena dasya udayat. When upon being separated from the Lord, when humility arises, then that gives rise to dasya. Sakhya karya sarathyadikam aparadhatvena sambhavya anutapyamanaha praha. So he considers that him engaging Lord Krishna as a sarathi and so on, which are natural effects of Sakhya, friendship. He considers all of that to be possibly offensive. Therefore, he laments. The Supreme Lord, the personality of Lord Shri Krishna, is the object of worship for both the impersonalists and the devotees of the Lord. The impersonalist worship is glowing effulgence emanating from his transcendental body of eternal form, bliss, and knowledge, and the devotees worship him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who are below, even the impersonalists, consider him to be one of the great historical personalities. The Lord, however, descends to attract all by his specific transcendental pastimes, and thus he plays the part of the most perfect master, friend, son, and lover. This transcendental relation with Arjuna was in friendship, and the Lord therefore played the part perfectly as he did with his parents, lovers, and wives. While the devotee plays in such a perfect transcendental relation, he forgets by the internal potency of the Lord that his friend or son is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although sometimes The devotee is bewildered by the acts of the Lord. After the departure of the Lord, Arjuna was conscious of his great friend, but there was no mistake on the part of Arjuna, nor any ill estimation of the Lord. Intelligent men are attracted by the transcendental acting of the Lord with a pure, unalloyed devotee like Arjuna. In the war field, scarcity of water is a well-known fact. Water is very rare there, and both the animals and men working strenuously on the war field constantly require water to quench their thirst. Especially wounded soldiers and generals feel very thirsty at the time of death. And it sometimes so happens that simply for want of water, one has to die unavoidably. But such scarcity of water was solved in the Battle of Kurukshetra by means of boring the ground. By God's grace, water can be easily obtained from any place if there's facility for boring the ground. The modern system works on the same principle of boring the ground, but modern engineers are still unable to immediately dig a well wherever necessary. It appears, however, from the history as far back as the days of the Pandavas that big generals like Arjuna could at once supply water even to the horses. And what to speak of men? By drawing water from underneath the hard ground simply by penetrating the stratum with a sharp arrow, a method still unknown to the modern speakers. 18. Narmanyudar ruchirasmitashobhitani he parth he Arjuna sakhe kurunandaneti संजल्पितानि नरदेव हृदि स्पृशानि स्मर्तुर्लुठन्ति हृदयं मम माधवस्य. O King, his jokes and frank talks were pleasing and beautifully decorated with smiles, and he would address me, O son of Pritha, O friend, O son of the Kuru dynasty. All such hearty dealings are now remembered by me, and thus I was overwhelmed. Nineteen. शय्यासनाटन विकथन भोजनादिश्वैक्याद्वयस्य ऋतवान् इति विप्रलब्धः सख्युः सखेव पितृवत्तनयस्य सर्वं सेहे महान् महितया कुमते रकं मे. Generally, both of us used to live together and sleep, sit, and loiter together. And at the time of advertising oneself for acts of chivalry, sometimes if there were any irregularity, I used to reproach him by saying, "My friend, you're very truthful." Even in those hours when his value was minimized, he, being the Supreme Soul, used to tolerate all those utterings of mine, excusing me exactly as a true friend excuses his true friend or as a father excuses his son. Vikathanam. Vikathana means speaking nonsense. And in Vedic culture, it refers to self-adoration. Glorifying oneself is considered one of the most foolish things one can ever do in life. When Arjuna criticized Lord Krishna, when he saw Lord Krishna's tactful behavior, then he would say, "Oh, my dear friend, you are so truthful." So he would speak in this manner, in a very sarcastic manner. Ribhuman instead of Ritavan appears in some manuscripts. This indicates that he's telling Lord Krishna that the Devas are your servants. So even though he was such a great soul, he was criticized by me by considering him to be just as a friend. Sometimes Ritaman appears, but that has the same meaning as Ritavan, truthful. Where is the word Aikya? Aikya. Because of oneness. That means because of oneness in love. This is another instance of the arisal of Dasya attitude in him. Achutanam, bro.
आगे सब bro. Prabhu, can a person be both tactful and at the same time truthful? One person asked this question.
There's something called white lie. Even in modern culture, they talk about white lie. White lie means it's an indirect, it is you're saying something to someone, and that someone you know understands it to mean something, but actually it means something else. And legally, you can prove it. Legally, you can prove it. But you know very well that he understands it to mean something, and he also understands it to be that. But actually, it means something else. So in today's world, they call it white lie. Since the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna is all perfect, his transcendental pastimes with his pure devotees never lack anything in any respect, either as a friend, son, or lover. The Lord relishes the reproaches of friends, parents, or fiancés more than the Vedic hymns offered to him by great learned scholars and religionists in an official fashion. So Aikya here refers to Prana Aikya, Chitta Abheda, Mitah Chitta Abheda. When there is unity of thought, that is also considered oneness. It is oneness in affection without losing individuality. 20. सोहम नृपेन्द्र रहितः पुरुषोत्तमेन सख्या प्रियेण सुहृदा हृदयेन शून्य अध्वन्युरुक्रम परिग्रहमंगरक्षन् गोपैरसद्भिरवलैव विनिर्जितोऽस्मि. O Emperor, now I am separated from my friend and dearmost well-wisher, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore my heart appears to be void of everything. In his absence, I have been defeated by a number of infidel, cowherd men while I was guarding the bodies of all the wives of Krishna. Yes, I have attained defeat, the defeat that you anticipated, that you apprehended. I've attained that. Devoid of his friendship, meaning devoid of his dealings with me as a friend because he himself disappeared. My heart appears to be void. Anga means, oh dear one, oh dear king. Urukramasya parigraham, asadbhir, nichaihi, abala, yosha iva. I've been defeated by a number of low-class cowherd men, as if I was a woman. When I was guarding 16,000, this is the 16,000 wives of Lord Krishna. That is Urukramasya Parigraham, the family of Lord Krishna. In the 11th canto, we will see that Shukadeva Goswami himself will point out that these are all deluding pastimes of the Supreme Lord. And It is this which is noted in the Brahma Purana also. There's a statement by Vyasadeva to Arjuna. Tattvaya nahi kartavya shokolpo pi hi pandava tenapi akhila nathena sarvam tad upasamhritam iti. When he tells him that you don't have to lament even slightly, O son of Pandu. It is that Lord of everyone, Lord Krishna, who has withdrawn everything, has brought everything back to him, all of his dear ones. From Arjuna. Asadbhi nichaihi. Asadbhi. By the infidels means nichaihi. By low class people. Vastutaha tu na vidyante santaha yebhyaha taihi gam prithvim vyam cha पांतीति तैहि गोपजातित्वाच गोपैहि ताः स्वप्रेयसीः अप्रकटप्रकाशे प्रवेशनार्थं तत्तद्रूपेण भगवता एव तासाम् आकर्षणात्. These infidel cohort men were actually different forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. He assumed these forms in order to make his beloved wives enter into the unmanifested pastimes of the Lord. It is understood that they all cherished to at least see the Supreme Lord's feature that was cherished by the woman of Vraja. That is clear from 10th canto, 83rd chapter. Anyatha tasam bhagavad upabhukta dehanam sakshal lakshmi rupanam nicha sparshe sadhya eva antardhanam syat. They are all forms of the goddesses of fortune. They are all Lakshmis directly. Their bodies have been enjoyed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no other explanation to how they were kidnapped by these cowherd men other than this. Because if any low-class person would have touched them, then they would have immediately disappeared. Ityatah prakashantarena tasam rajastritva praptir iti gyayam. So, in another manifestation, Krishna has got unlimited pastime manifestation. He doesn't manifest everything to everyone in all the universes. In another manifestation, they had attained the status of being women of Vraja. That should be understood. Vishnu Purana, Brahma Purana, Yorapi, Atreva. This is also understood from the Vishnu Purana and Brahma Purana. Yatha tatra Arjunam prati Vyasa vachanam. It's in these places. Vyasa tells Arjuna. The same statement is found in Vishnu Purana. एवं तस्य मुनेशापाद अष्टावक्रस्य केशवं भर्तारं प्राप्य ता याता दस्युहस्ता वरांगना. They were cursed by Ashtavakra that even though they had attained Lord Keshava as their bharta, husband, they were caught by dacoits, those beautiful ladies. So previously, those devis, the queens, they had prayed to Ashtavakra Muni and they had attained the benediction that, okay, you will attain Lord Vishnu as your husband. But then they also ridiculed Ashtavakra Muni for, because his body was deformed. So by seeing that, when they had ridiculed him, then he cursed them that you would be handled by dacoits. then again they satisfied him. And in that way, he said that at the end of that curse, they attained their husband again, because the sage's curse and blessing was they were infallible. Therefore, they were caught by the hands of dacoits, and they also attained their husbands. Both of them could take place because their own husband, Lord Krishna, assumed the forms of those dacoits. Therefore, there's another statement in Vishnu Purana, same statement as in that Brahma Purana statement. Okay. Atras Puthartho na grahya. Here one should not accept the literal meaning of this. Reme Ramabhi ityukte, because it is already stated in chapter 59 of 10th canto. It will be stated in chapter 59 of 10th canto that the Lord enjoyed with his wives, who were all the goddesses of fortune. Lakshmi Romananta Asam Asadbhi Sparsha Asambhavat, because it is impossible for them, who are all different forms of Lakshmi, to even be touched by infidel men. That Sannikarshya Antarthana Sambhavat, because that would give rise to their disappearance as soon as they come nearby. So the real meaning is that they had told Draupadi, it will come in 10th canto, 83rd chapter, that they were hankering to associate with the most charming feature of Lord Krishna as a cowherd boy. That feature is cherished by the goddesses of Vraja. So from that, all of this took place. The important point in this verse is how it was possible that Arjuna could be defeated by a gang of ignoble cowherd men, and how such mundane cowherd men could touch the bodies of the wives of Lord Krishna, who were under the protection of Arjuna. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has justified the contradiction by research in the Vishnu Purana and Brahma Purana. In these Puranas, it is said that once the fair denizens of heaven pleased Ashtavakra Muni by their service and were blessed by the Muni to have the Supreme Lord as their husband. Ashtavakra Muni was curved in 8 joints of his body, and thus he used to move in a peculiar curved manner. The daughters of the demigods could not check their laughter upon seeing the movements of the Muni, and the Muni, being angry at them, cursed that they would be kidnapped by rogues even though they would get the Lord as their husband. Later on, the girls again satisfied the Muni by their prayers, and the Muni blessed them that they would regain their husband even after being kidnapped by the rogues. So in order to keep the words of the great Muni, the Lord himself kidnapped his wives from the protection of Arjuna. Otherwise, they would have at once vanished from the scene as soon as they were touched by the rogues. Besides that, some of the gopis who prayed to become wives of the Lord returned to their respective positions after their desire was fulfilled. After the departure of Lord Krishna, he wanted all his entourage back to Godhead, and they were called back under different conditions only. Yes.
Prabhu, after associating with Lord, are they not purified enough that they can go back to Godhead directly instead of going back to their respective places?
Their respective places is back to Godhead only, then what? The Lakshmis who come from the spiritual world, they go back there only. Where else they will go? They eternally belong to Krishna. There is a
So,
Dwaraka in the spiritual world. So the queens who came from there, they go back.
and in relation with the sons of Krishna, it said some of them were portions of demigods, so they went back to demigods. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In Krishna's pastimes, there are also these demigods, demigoddesses are also present. So they go back to their spots until they become fully qualified to serve the Lord like the eternal associates.
so this uh, acceptance into Lord's pastime is not the guarantee that he'll be he'll become eternal associate. That they participated again, they are.
No, like the demigods, they are always participating. The demigods always participate. That's why the demigods are also considered associates of the Lord. But they're not eternal associates, they're temporary associates.
Mm-hmm. And
You will
bro,
see that.
like one point about this cursing, it feels sometimes that Brahmanas, they are supposed to have qualification of tolerance and controlling the senses, and then suddenly they curse.
No, but they curse for the benefit of all these XYZs.
So
They
it
don't.
appears Ashtavakra Muni was personally insulted.
It
So he could
appears
have.
like that, but that's only superficial.
Okay.
That's only superficial. That's not reality. It is wrong to criticize a great soul on the basis of his appearance. That has to be taught. That is why Krishna also wanted to preserve the curse.
Okay.
Krishna can very easily cancel benedictions by great personalities. In eighth canto, um, there is an instance. Manu was once praying to the Supreme Lord. This comes in the first chapter of the eighth canto. He was once praying to the Supreme Lord. And at that time, one of these asuras or daityas or rakshasas, one of those groups, they had been blessed by Lord Shiva to be invincible. So they attacked Manu. So at that time, the Lord became so angry that he just killed them. Even though they had been blessed by Lord Shiva, that nobody can kill you. So it is not that Krishna is always obliged to honor the blessings and curses, but he sees under particular situations if it's required. He sees it. First of all, they were all demigoddesses. The demigoddesses, they should know how to behave so that they can progress. The Swanishtas, they become all these demigods, demigoddesses. Okay, let's move on. 21. Tadvai dhanus ta ishava saratho hayaste soham rathi nirpatayo yata namanti sarvam kshanena tadabhud asad isha riktam bhasman hutam kuhakaradham ihoktamushyam. I have the very same Gandiva bow, the same arrows, the same chariot drawn by the same horses, and I use them as the same Arjuna to whom all the kings offered their due respects. But in the absence of Lord Krishna, all of them at a moment's notice have become null and void. It is exactly like offering clarified butter into ashes, accumulating money with a magic wand, or sowing seeds in barren land. Madhvacharya has noted that I have the very same Gandiva bow, the same arrows, the same chariot drawn by the same horses, means that I have a similar Gandiva bow, similar arrows, similar chariot, and so on. Because it is stated that the chariot, and at least when it comes to the chariot and horses, but he has included arrows also here, because it has been stated that the chariot and the horses were burnt up when Lord Krishna left them at the end of the war, Mahabharata. Sri Krishna Viyoga Evatra Hetur Nanya. It is only separation from Lord Sri Krishna that is the cause for all of this. So just like when we offer clarified butter into ashes, even using proper mantras and by following proper procedures, still it is useless. So like that, in the absence of Lord Krishna, everything has become null and void. As we have discussed more than once, one should not be puffed up by borrowed plumes, borrowed feathers. All energies and powers are derived from the Supreme Source, Lord Krishna, and they act as long as He desires and cease to function as soon as He withdraws. All electrical energies are received from the powerhouse, and as soon as the powerhouse stops supplying energy, the bulbs and machines are of no use. In a moment's time, such energies can be generated or withdrawn by the supreme will of the Lord. Material civilization without the blessing of the Lord is child's play only. As long as the parents allow the child to play, it is all right. As soon as the parents withdraw their permission, the child has to stop. Human civilization and all activities thereof must be dovetailed with the supreme blessing of the Lord. And without this blessing, all advancement of human civilization is like the decoration on a dead body. It is said here that a dead civilization and its activities are something like the pouring of clarified butter on ashes, the accumulation of money by a magic wand, and the sowing of seeds in barren land. 22, 23. Rajam spayana prishtanam sukhridam na sukhrid pure viprashapa vimudhanam nignatam mushtubhir mitha varunim madiram pitva madon matita chetasam ajanatam ivanyonyam chatuf panchava sheshita. O kings, since you have asked me about our friends and relatives in the city of Dwaraka, I will inform you that all of them were cursed by the Brahmanas, and as a result, they all became intoxicated with wine made of putrefied rice and fought among themselves with sticks, not even recognizing one another. Now all but 4 or 5 of them are dead and gone. All these details are there in the 11th canto. 24. Prayenaitad bhagavata ishwarasya ucheshtitam mithau nignanti bhutani bhavayanti cha yanmithaha. Actually, this is all due to the supreme will of the Lord, the personality of God. Sometimes people kill one another, and at other times they protect one another. Avasheshita ityanena uktam hetukartaram aha tribihi. He said only some are remaining. So that is also by the Lord's wish. He is the cause for the few who survived. This is noted in 3 verses beginning with text 24. The current verse, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, is a statement made by Arjuna in distress. And it is in line with the pastimes as they are perceived by common people. Etad yadukula samharanam. This is all due to the supreme will of the Lord, means this destruction of the entire dynasty of the Yadus is due to the supreme will of the Lord. Prayena etat. It is almost by the will of the Lord, the personality of Godhead, that all of this happens. Why almost? Praya grahanam lokokti rityaiva, natu siddhanta ritya. Because he's just following the way common people understand and speak about these things, not in terms of the scriptural conclusions. According to the anthropologists, there is nature's law of struggle for existence and survival of the fittest. But they do not know that behind the law of nature is the supreme direction of the supreme personality of God. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that the law of nature is executed under the direction of the Lord. Whenever, therefore, there is peace in the world, it must be known that it is due to the good will of the Lord. And whenever there is upheaval in the world, it is also due to the supreme will of the Lord. Not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. Whenever, therefore, there is disobedience of the established rules enacted by the Lord, there is war between men and between nations. The surest way to the path of peace, therefore, is dovetailing everything with the established rule of the Lord. The established rule is that whatever we do, whatever we eat, whatever sacrifice, or whatever we give in charity must be done to the full satisfaction of the Lord. No one should do anything, eat anything, sacrifice anything, or give anything in charity against the will of the Lord. Discretion is the better part of valor, and one must learn how to discriminate between actions which may be pleasing to the Lord and those which may not be pleasing to the Lord. An action is just judged by the Lord's pleasure or displeasure. There is no room for personal whims. We must always be guided by the pleasure of the Lord. Such action is called Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam, Bhagavad Gita 2.50, or actions performed which are linked with the Supreme Lord. That is the art of doing a thing perfectly. 25 and 26. Jalaukasam jale yadvan mahanto dantyani aniyasaha durbalan balino rajan mahanto balino mithaha evam balishthir yaduvir mahadvir itaran vibuhu yadun yaduvir anyonyam bhuharan sanjaharaha. O king, as in the ocean, bigger and stronger aquatics swallow up the smaller and weaker ones. So also the Supreme Personality of Godhead, to lighten the burden of the earth, has engaged the stronger Yadu to kill the weaker, and the bigger Yadu kill the smaller. This is just the ordinary Matsya Nyaya, the logic of the fish. When there is no appropriate king, then human communities degrade into this status. Whoever has might is right in English. So, but that arrangement is under the background control of the Supreme Lord. He is the one who sanctions that arrangement. In the material world, the struggle for existence and survival of the fittest are laws, because in the material world there is disparity between conditioned souls due to everyone's desire to lord it over the material resources. This very mentality of lording it over the material nature is the root cause of conditioned life. And to give facility to such imitation lords, the illusory energy of the Lord has created a disparity between conditioned living beings by creating the stronger and the weaker in every species of life. So this disparity or this contrast is actually due to karma. Actually, one of the reasons why the human populace of today is so hypersensitive about the various distresses, adhyatmik, adhidaivik, adhibhautik distresses, is because they don't understand how Prakriti, Kala, Karma work. They don't understand the nature of Prakriti. They don't understand the nature of Kala. Kala cyclically produces destruction. And they don't understand Karma. I get what exactly I deserve. I don't get anything that I don't deserve. So this disparity, this contrast, is also created by ourselves. If I do something, if I engage in paropakara, then in the future, I will be given an exalted position with greater strength and greater power. But if I engage in swapakara, instead of paropakara, engage in swapakara, I am selfish, then I am made weaker. So naturally, then I will be bossed over by those who are stronger. The mentality of lording it over the material nature and the creation has naturally created a disparity, and therefore the law of struggle for existence. In the spiritual world, there is no such disparity, nor is there such a struggle for existence. In the spiritual world, there is no struggle for existence because everyone there exists eternally. There is no disparity because everyone wants to render service to the Supreme Lord. And no one wants to imitate the Lord in becoming the beneficiary. The Lord, being the creator of everything, including the living beings, actually is the proprietor and enjoyer of everything that be. But in the material world, by the spell of Maya or illusion, this eternal relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead is forgotten. And so the living being is conditioned under the law of struggle for existence and survival of the fittest. Oh, there's another verse here. Sridhar Swami has given a very interesting remark. He says that the Supreme Lord Krishna, he used powerful, great warriors, the Pandavas, to kill Duryodhana, Jarasandha, and so on. And then he used the Yadus to kill the remaining, Shalva and others. And then he used the Yadus to kill the Yadus themselves. So in that way, he has removed the burden of the earth. Now, Jiva Goswami points out both here and more elaborately in his commentary to the 11th canto that the Yadus were not burdens to the earth in an adharmic sense. They were burdens of love, affection for the Supreme Lord. That we'll see that when we come to the 11th canto. Arjuna is in text 26 is also talking about those members of the Yadu dynasty who were burdens to the earth, not those eternal associates amongst the Yadus who were actually ornaments to the earth. This is a reference to something that Vishnu Chakravarti will explain later on. There are different types of burdens. There is when a woman wears heavy ornaments, it is certainly a burden to her, but she likes it very much. So like that, the eternal associates, the Yadus, they were ornaments to the earth. Whereas the others, the Devas, the mixed persons who had incarnated within the Yadu Vamsha, they were not like that. Still, it is inappropriate to say that they were burdens because they were also meant to be placed in their respective places in the heavenly planets. So the Supreme Lord used this as an excuse to destroy them. All of this will be clarified in the 11th canto. Yetra Brahmanirdesha Devamshaha Yadushu Avatirnaha An Prakritaneva Bhuvaran Sanjahara Yetu Nityaparshadaha Yadavaha Te Khalu Tad Bharabhuta Na Bhavanti Api Tu Tad Alankrite Eva. Nahi taranya bhushana bhumna bharatvaya apitu saukhyaya eva. Same example. Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan gives. A young girl, she does not consider so much of heavy ornamentation to be a burden. She considers that to be a cause of great happiness. So like that, the eternal associates, the Yadus, they were not unfavorable burdens to the earth. They were ornaments to the earth. Whereas these materialistic uh, members of the Yadu dynasty, the Devamshas, who had incarnated by the order of Lord Brahma, they were the ones who were destroyed. Ehi sartham tena dwaravatyam eva asan iti ekadashe vyakhyasyaamaha. As we will explain in the 11th canto, that they were the ones who were eternally residing in Dwaravati or Dwaraka. 27. Deshakalartha yuktani tapopa cha haranti smarataschittam govinda hitani me. Now I'm attracted to those instructions imparted to me by the personality of God in Govinda because they are impregnated with instructions for relieving the burning heart in all circumstances of time and space. Atah param vaktum na shaknumi iti suchayannaha. He then indicates that I am unable to speak anything further. So don't ask me anything else. He remembers all of Lord Sri Krishna's instructions. Here in Arjuna refers to the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, which were imparted to him by the Lord on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Bhagavad Gita is actually, it is for the sake of making people read Bhagavad Gita that Vyasadeva in fact presented the entire Mahabharata. All those 100,000 shlokas, the entire Mahabharata, is to make people read those 700 shlokas of Bhagavad Gita. The most important part of Mahabharata. The Lord left behind him the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, not for the benefit of Arjuna alone, but also for all time and in all lands. The Bhagavad Gita being spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the essence of all Vedic wisdom. It is nicely presented by the Lord himself for all who have very little time to go through the vast Vedic literatures like the Upanishads, Puranas, and Vedanta Sutras. It is put within the study of the great historical epic, Mahabharata, which is especially prepared for the less intelligent class, namely the women, the laborers, and those who are worthless descendants of the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and higher sections of the Vaishyas. The problem which arose in the heart of Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra was solved by the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. Again, after the departure of the Lord from the vision of earthly people, when Arjuna was face to face with being vanquished in his acquired power and prominence, he wanted again to remember the great teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, just to teach all concerned that the Bhagavad Gita can be consulted in all critical times, not only for solace from all kinds of mental agonies, but also for the way out of great entanglements which may embarrass one in some critical hour. The merciful Lord left behind him the great teachings of the Bhagavad Gita so that one can take the instructions of the Lord even when he is not visible to material eyesight. Material senses cannot have any estimation of the Supreme Lord, but by his inconceivable power, the Lord can incarnate himself with the sense perception of the conditioned souls in a suitable manner through the agency of matter, which is also another form of the Lord's manifested energy. Thus, the Bhagavad Gita or any authentic scriptural sound representation of the Lord is also an incarnation of the Lord. There is no difference between the sound representation of the Lord and the Lord himself. One can derive the same benefit from the Bhagavad Gita as Arjuna did in the personal presence of the Lord. The faithful human being who is desirous of being liberated from the clutches of material existence can very easily take advantage of the Bhagavad Gita. And with this in view, the Lord instructed Arjuna as if Arjuna were in need of it. In the Bhagavad Gita, 5 important factors of knowledge have been delineated pertaining to the Supreme Lord, the living being, nature, time and space, and the process of activity. Time and space come together. Out of these, the Supreme Lord and the living being are qualitatively one. The difference between the two has been analyzed as the difference between the whole and the part and parcel. Nature is inert matter displaying the interaction of 3 different modes, and eternal time and unlimited space are considered to be beyond the existence of material nature. Activities of the living being are different varieties of aptitudes which can entrap or liberate the living being within and without material nature. If we engage in certain activities, we are trapped. If we engage in certain other activities, we are liberated. All these subject matters are concisely discussed in the Bhagavad Gita, and later the subject matters are elaborated in the Srimad Bhagavatam for further enlightenment. Out of the 5 subjects, the Supreme Lord, the living entity, nature, and time and space are eternal. But the living entity, nature, and time are under the direction of the Supreme Lord, who is absolute and completely independent of any other control. The Supreme Lord is the supreme controller. The material activity of the living being is beginningless, but it can be rectified by transferal into the spiritual quality. Thus, it can cease its material qualitative reactions. Both the Lord and the living entity are cognizant, and both have a sense of identification, meaning self-awareness, of being conscious as a living force. But the living being under the condition of material nature, called the Mahatattva, misidentifies himself as being different from the Lord, meaning he considers that he is as independent as the Lord, or he considers himself to be independent of the Lord. The whole scheme of Vedic wisdom is targeted to the aim of eradicating such a misconception and thus liberating the living being from the illusion of material identification. When such an illusion is eradicated by knowledge and renunciation, the living being revives his real identity as an individual being on the same transcendental platform as the Lord. As conscious beings, both the Lord and the living being are responsible actors and enjoyers also. The sense of enjoyment in the Lord is real, but such a sense in the living being is a sort of wishful desire only. This difference in consciousness is the distinction of the 2 identities, namely the Lord and the living being. Otherwise, there is no difference between the Lord and the living being. The living being is therefore eternally one and different simultaneously. The whole instruction of the Bhagavad Gita stands on this principle. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord and the living beings are both described as Sanatana or eternal, and the Lord's abode, far beyond the material sky, is also described as Sanatana. The living being is invited to live in the Sanatana existence of the Lord, and the process which can help a living being to approach the Lord's abode, where the liberated activity of the soul is exhibited, is called Sanatana Dharma. One cannot, however, reach the eternal abode of the Lord without being free from the misconception of material identification. And the Bhagavad Gita gives us the clue how to achieve this stage of perfection. The process of being liberated from the misconception of material identification is called in different stages: fruitive activity, empiric philosophy, and devotional service, up to transcendental realization. Such transcendental realization is made possible by doubting all the above items in relation with the Lord. Prescribed duties of the human being as directed in the Vedas can gradually purify the sinful mind of the conditioned soul and raise him to the stage of knowledge. This purified stage of acquiring knowledge becomes the basis of devotion service to the Lord. As long as one is engaged in researching the solution of the problems of life, his knowledge is called jnana or purified knowledge. But on realizing the actual solution of life, one becomes situated in the devotional service of the Lord. The Bhagavad Gita begins with the problems of life by discriminating the soul from the elements of matter, and proves by all reason and argument that the soul is indestructible in all circumstances, and that the outer covering of matter, the body and the mind, change for another term of material existence, which is full of miseries. The Bhagavad Gita is therefore meant for terminating all different types of miseries, and Arjuna took shelter of this great knowledge which had been imparted to him during the Kurukshetra battle. This is a fine explanation of Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan's introduction to Bhagavad Gita, or Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur's introduction in his Vidvan to Bhagavad Gita. 28. Sutavacha. Evam Chintayato Jishno Krishnapada Saroruham Sauhardenati Gadhen Shanta Sid Vimala Matihi. Suta Goswami said, thus being deeply absorbed in thinking of the instructions of the Lord, which are imparted in the great intimacy of friendship, and in thinking of his lotus feet, Arjuna's mind became pacified and free from all material contamination. This is a statement of Suta Goswami. So it looks like in Sridhar Swami's reading, Suta Vacha did not appear. This is all due to Arjuna's great love for the Supreme Lord. Since the Lord is absolute, deep meditation upon him is as good as yogic trance. The Lord is non-different from his name, form, qualities, pastimes, entourage, and specific actions. Arjuna began to think of the Lord's instructions to him on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Only those instructions began to eliminate the tinges of material contamination in the mind of Arjuna. The Lord is like the sun. The sun's appearance means immediate dissipation of darkness or ignorance, and the Lord's appearance within the mind of the devotee can at once drive away the miserable material effects. Lord Chaitanya has therefore recommended constant chanting of the name of the Lord for protection from all contamination of the material world. The feeling of separation from the Lord is undoubtedly painful to the devotee, but because it is in connection with the Lord, it has a specific transcendental effect which pacifies the heart. Feelings of separation are also sources of transcendental bliss. They are never comparable to contaminated material feelings of separation. This comes in Rasamrita Sindhu and Nectar of Devotion. 29. Vasudevangri anudhyana paribrahmhita ramhasa bhaktya nirmatita shesha kashayad hishnorjana. Arjuna's constant remembrance of the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna rapidly increased his devotion, and as a result, all the trash in his thoughts subsided. So this is the result of the purification of his mind. So he became freed from passion and so on. This is an elaboration of this, and the next verse are elaborations of what was stated in the previous verse. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur brings up an objection. Nanu kamadeha kashayaha api malashabdena uchyante. Lust and so on are contaminations. They're specifically referred to by the expression dirt, mala. Yes. Arjunasya bhagavan nitya parikarattvena sakshan nara avatarattvena cha tat asambhava eva. But Arjuna, being the eternal associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and directly an incarnation of Nara, Naranarayana Rishi, Nara, it is impossible for him to have lust, anger, greed, and so on. Mahendra amshatvena kashayaha sambhavati chet tadapi naiva ityaha vasudeveti. If one were to say no, but he is an amsha of Mahendra, the great Indra, then that contamination is possible in him. Then Sudha Goswami says, no, that is not the case. Because From his birth, he was engaged in devotion service to the Lord. Therefore, all of his passions, they had already been removed from that time. When Arjuna says that, or when it is said that Arjuna became purified like this, and this is actually referring to the plenary portion of Indra in Arjuna. Because the original one, he was not like this. Original one means eternal associate. Material desires in the mind are the trash of material contamination. By such contamination, the living being is faced with so many compatible and incompatible things that discourage the very existence of spiritual identity. Birth after birth, the conditioned soul is entrapped with so many pleasing and displeasing elements, which are all false and temporary. They accumulate due to our reactions to material desires. But when we get in touch with the transcendental Lord in his variegated energies by devotion service, the naked forms of all material desires become manifest. And the intelligence of the living being is pacified in its true color. As soon as Arjuna turned his attention towards the instructions of the Lord as they are inculcated in the Bhagavad Gita, his true color of eternal association with the Lord became manifest. And thus he felt freed from all material contaminations. A question in the chat box. One can derive the same benefit from the Bhagavad Gita as Arjuna did in the personal presence of the Lord. What does it mean? What is the problem with this? If we obey the Bhagavad Gita the way Arjuna obeyed the Bhagavad Gita, we will also become free from all these anarthas. Achyutanam Prabhu.
Prabhuji, in 29th purport, this line, naked forms of all material desires become manifest. What does it mean actually? I am unable to understand.
There are different levels of material desires. The ones that we, like for instance, I may have a desire to eat a particular food. So now, if you ask me, do you have any material desires? I may specify that. So I want to eat that particular food. But there is a background to it. I have a desire to eat something material and relish it. And then there's a background to that also. I want to experience material sound, touch, form, taste, smell. So in that way, if you analyze deeper and deeper, we have all these propensities. These propensities will impel us life after life after life. They'll prompt us again and again and again to develop specific desires. So all of that we begin to understand when we make spiritual progress. That's all. 30. Geetam Bhagavata Jnanam Yattat Sangrama Murdhani Kalakarma Tamoruddham Punarradhya Gamat Prahuhu. Because of the Lord's pastimes and activities and Arjuna's feelings of separation from him, it appeared that Arjuna forgot the instructions left by the personality of Godhead. But factually, this was not the case. And again, he became Lord of his senses. Due to time, Kala Karma Tamoruddham. Previously, Arjuna's intelligence was covered over by the darkness of Kala and Karma. time and material activities, which indicates that his intelligence was covered by tamas and the obsession to experience material enjoyment. The Jiva Goswami notes, Geetam Mame Vaishyasya. So he remembered Lord Krishna's instructions that if you engage in my devotional service, then you will certainly come to me. Manmana bhav madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. In reality, Arjuna was influenced by the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. He was being burnt. Arjuna was burning in the in all kinds of anxieties because of not seeing the moon-like face of the Supreme Lord. So he began to drink the nectar of Bhagavad Gita. Here, darkness refers to the darkness of separation from the Supreme Lord. So you remembered Lord Krishna's instruction. Ame vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. Lord Krishna had already indicated this when he had spoken Bhagavad Gita. Don't become frightened. After my disappearance, you will certainly come to me. And Kala Karma Tamo Ruddham has been very interestingly explained by Baladev Vidyabhushan. Kala indicates that several years will go by. Karma indicates that he'll be busy with various royal activities. And tamas refers to the obsession to experience various forms of material world. So all of that would have gone. The conditioned soul is enwrapped in his fruitive activities by the force of eternal time. But the Supreme Lord, when he incarnates on the earth, is not influenced by Kala or the material conception of past, present, and future. The activities of the Lord are eternal and their manifestations of his Atmamaya are internal potency. All pastimes or activities of the Lord are spiritual in nature, but to the layman they appear to be on the same level with material activities. Thus it appeared that Arjuna and the Lord were engaged in the battle of Kurukshetra as the other party was also engaged, but factually the Lord was executing his mission of incarnation in association with his eternal friend Arjuna. Therefore, such apparently material activities of Arjuna did not drive him away from his transcendental position, but on the contrary, revived his consciousness of the songs of the Lord as he had sung them personally. This revival of consciousness is assured by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita 18.65 as follows. Manmana bhav madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishvasi satyam te pratijnane priyosi me. One should think of the Lord always. The mind should not forget him. One should become a devotee of the Lord and offer obeisances unto him. One who lives in that fashion becomes undoubtedly endowed with the blessing of the Lord by achieving the shelter of his lotus feet. There is nothing to doubt about this eternal truth. Because Arjuna was his confidential friend, the secret was disclosed to him. Arjuna had no desire to fight with his relatives, but he fought for the mission of the Lord. He was always engaged in the execution of his mission only, and therefore, after the Lord's departure, he remained in the same transcendental position, even though it appeared that he forgot all the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. One should therefore adjust the activities of life in pace with the mission of the Lord, and by doing this, one is sure to return home back sure to return back home, back to Godhead. This is the highest perfection of life. Okay, so we'll stop with that. There is something in the chat box. Arjuna remembered the instructions after hearing from the Lord. What are the instructions he was remembering? He was remembering this particular instruction. Manmana bhava madhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mame vaishyasi satyam te pratijani priyosi me. This is the only instruction that is repeated by Lord Krishna. Comes at the end of the 9th chapter, comes at the end of the 18th chapter. So you remember this. We should also remember this. Okay?